Hello and welcome to Vibe Extra. I am Jennifer Geisler, and with me today I have Scott Puopolo, if I pronounced that correctly, Scott.
Very well done.
Good. Now, Scott is the Vice President of IBSG with a big focus on service provider, right?
That is correct.
So with that in mind, I'm going to start off with asking you an enterprise question.
Sure. We have to understand the enterprise in order to understand service providers. So
you got it, the two are hand in hand. So we want to talk about cloud. Cloud's a hot topic.
Yeah.
As you're working with the service providers who are working with the enterprise, what are you seeing as the, I would say, key barriers that enterprises are running into in order to go to a cloud deployment?
Okay. Well, I think it actually is, there's probably three things that I would characterize. The first is, they are definitely, as they think about workloads and migration of workloads, they're very concerned about issues of being able to maintain security.
Okay.
So that's number one. Number two, I think they also recognize that when you do migrate from a traditional model to, there's a transition, there's a cost, there's business process re-engineering. There's a lot of uncertainties about the economics and a lot of uncertainties about the benefits that they will achieve. So I think that's the second area. I think the third area for them is probably one of culture, where traditional IT environments have operated in a particular way. This requires a massive cultural change for a lot of these organizations. So the good news is a lot of migrations are starting to happen, whether it's just data center virtualization or moving into private cloud. But as you really think about expanding beyond what they currently do, I think these are the barriers that we're likely to encounter.
Okay, so Scott, if we just think about the existing cloud deployments going on in enterprise today, what are you seeing? I mean, how far have they gone? What are they doing?
Well, it's interesting. I'm actually seeing a breadth of deployments. It's everything from really just investigating the economics and really looking at it from a sort of an analytical point of view, just to a lot of organizations piloting. What we see a lot for a lot of enterprises is what we call shadow IT, where there's a lot of functional organizations, marketing and others, who have gone to go and use cloud services for specific workloads or specific applications. We see a little bit of that. What I'm starting to see a lot more of, though, which is getting really exciting, is a lot of the CIOs are really embracing cloud, and they're moving a lot of what they would characterize as initially non-mission critical applications, workloads into the cloud. So they may do some of their CRM in the cloud, they may do some of their ERP, they may do test and development, a number of those kinds of applications.
Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to come back to your key area of focus, which is the service providers. And we look at what the service providers, one, what are the service providers doing? I mean, because one, service providers do have to compete with each other for this cloud business. So I'm going to guess that they use various models. Yep. So what are service providers doing?
So, well, it's actually interesting right now. A lot of service providers around the world have come to the conclusion that a lot of their economic growth is going to be implementing new business models beyond the traditional network-based orientation. And so to do that, their focus has been largely on really thinking about, number one, the ability to deliver basic infrastructure as a service. Okay. And that is largely, it's an extension of their hosting businesses. It is an extension of, I think, a lot of times linkages to the communications dimension, so that's a component. The second, so that's one area. The second thing that we're starting to see a lot of them do is either acquire or partner with systems integrators, ISVs, which are software vendors, in order to create more of the business transformational model to help enterprises make that transition from traditional to the cloud-based environment. The other thing I think that we're going to see a lot of, or that we're starting to see a lot of, is in terms of business models, service providers are not only offering public cloud, but through partners and even with themselves, they're actually offering virtual private cloud, or in some cases, and we'll hear about this in my session later today, some of the systems integrators are technically becoming cloud service providers, and they're actually operating outsourcing, client premise-based outsourcing. So all of that, I think, is part of the potentials of the business models.
Okay, So now I'm going to go to one of my topics, or my favorite topics. So we talk about enterprise, we talk about service provider. Now I'd like to talk about government and
Sure.
the public sector. What is the opportunity there for cloud that you're seeing, especially as you see service providers work with the government sector?
Sure, well based on some IBSG research that we completed in December, we've identified actually public sector as one of the three probably highest propensity to migrate to cloud verticals. And the other two, by the way, being professional services and manufacturing. But public sector is large. And the reason it's large is, number one, I think that the public sector is desperate to acquire skill sets. And so cloud is an opportunity for them to have access to world-class, cutting-edge skill sets without having to go through the complexity of hiring and developing those resources. I think that's a big one. The most important one, though, believe it or not, that I found in the research, which was fascinating to me, is that when state, local government actually has to go out and do CapEx. It is a legislative process. So it's almost, if you will, an act of God to get it done. Whereas using cloud, it allows them to actually use operating budget, which does not require the legislative process. And so it becomes very natural with both of those two factors for public sector to be such, I think, a very important opportunity.
Okay, great. Well, Scott, I appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing your session this afternoon. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. It was nice to be here.
And for Vibe Extra, I'm Jennifer Geisler. Thanks for watching.